All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming today. It is officially the third, no, yes. Is it Wednesday? Yes, it is Wednesday. I can't even keep track of the days right now. It is the third day of 5 days of PD celebration. So we're going to jump right in. And today we're talking about secondary general music and high school music appreciation, also middle school. This is my jam. This is my fave. So I'm super excited to share and turn on captions. Okay, so um, I a lot of your names are familiar from seeing you from previous sessions this week, but real quick, if anyone is new here, my name is Michelle Rose, and I am a full-time online music teacher. This is my fourth year, so yes, I was doing this before COVID-19 hit. I teach middle school and high school general music. I also direct the extracurricular virtual band slash orchestra, which I am doing a rehearsal tomorrow. And also the choir, which I did a rehearsal yesterday. That video is going to be posted hopefully after this. I also have guest taught for elementary, so I've done a little bit of everything online. And I am also the author of Teaching Music Online, a comprehensive guide for K-12 music educators. And so this week of PD was a celebration of that release, and I know it is almost, I think it's 3 weeks now, 2.5, 3 weeks after it has launched, but the celebration came just a little later because the book launched while I was going back to school, and it's been bananas for everyone, including me, but I'm happy you're here now. You can connect with me on Instagram. That's kind of where I spend a lot of my time at _musical_rose. So if you find something helpful tonight, please tag me. I love seeing all the learning that has been happening over this week. And then you can also email me at michelle@themusicalrose.com, although my email response time is very delayed right now, just due to volume in both my personal life and professional life. So Instagram is kind of the best place to reach out. All right, so today's session, we're going to talk a little bit about the rules of engagement. I'm going to show you some segments of actual lessons that I use through Nearpod, which is one of my favorite tools. And then I'm going to show you some segments of lessons just using Zoom, or you could apply it to whatever virtual classroom you have. So just to give you an idea of my teaching situation, my high school music appreciation class is Monday through Friday, 1 hour synchronous instruction, and it is first period, first thing in the morning at 8:15, grades 9 through 12. So yes, I do have the pleasure of engaging some very sleepy high schoolers right when I start my day. And yes, some of them literally tell me I rolled out of bed and logged into class. I'm like, totally fine, as long as you made it. There are no prerequisites for this class, so I have students of pretty wide varieties of previous experience in music, and it is an optional elective, so students have a choice between a bunch of different options. We have an art program. We just started I think a fashion design course this year at my school. We have business stuff, so it is not required for students to take music appreciation. The asynchronous work that my students do, so they're expected to do 1 hour of synchronous work and 1 hour of asynchronous work per class, and they take 3 classes at a time since we're at block scheduling, and that's how they get their attendance for the day. So my asynchronous work typically includes reading, videos, quizzes, tests, and projects. 8th grade music is a little bit different, so I only have 8th graders once per week, 45 minutes of synchronous instruction. I do 10 to 15 minute pre-recorded lessons with an exit ticket each week to kind of compensate for that a little bit since it is a short amount of time. On the other hand, my 8th grade music class is required for all of the 8th graders, so I have 275 of them. And so my asynchronous work for them includes their flipped lesson every week. I keep it pretty simple. And then at the end of units, they either have some sort of test or project. And so I do give tests and quizzes because it is part of the kind of data requirement for my school. So if you're like, why have tests and quizzes like this? I would prefer to kind of just do formative and projects, but it is what it is. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about frequency of engagement, and you are going to see this demonstrated in my lessons. You need to be engaging your students pretty often to make sure that they have something to do And so I engage students every 1 to 2 slides after videos, pretty much every video, or every 5 minutes, depending on, if I'm just kind of speaking. And so I see this all the time on the internet of people talking about how to get your students to keep their videos on, or what your policies are, or if your school requires students to keep their videos on. And my general music classes, I don't ever have my students turn their videos on because there's no real pedagogical reason for me to see them. For my virtual ensembles, I do want to see them, and I invite them to turn their videos on because I want to see their breathing and their posture and their fingering. And so there is some pedagogical reason for me to see them. But in my general music classes, there isn't. And the thing is, people are like, well, how do you know they're engaged? Okay, we'll have an engagement activity every, pretty often, but also, you can look very engaged while you have your camera on, right? So, I always say there's probably one of you that says, or that's like checking your email, but maybe you have your camera on too, and that's fine. I have done that before too, where I'm sitting somewhere and yes, I have to have my camera on, and like you can look very engaged, and not be engaged. So don't rely on video. Plus, there are many, many reasons from students, not feeling comfortable because they are at home rather than a physical school building to, bandwidth issues, or that they don't even have a camera. So you don't need videos. I don't require it, especially for general music. All right, so now let's talk about Nearpod. Nearpod is my favorite tool. They made like pretty much all of their features included in the free version, I think, when COVID hit, and I'm pretty sure that's still in place. So it is a phenomenal resource. They do have a premium upgrade, but it includes more lesson plans now. So they kind of have changed a little bit. Here we go. So I am going to show you my exact setup because I will walk you through step by step of how I prep for Nearpod, and then we'll actually see a lesson. Okay, so first I'm going to grab my Nearpod slide. Okay, so this is my Nearpod library, and so I am going to demonstrate my intro to hip hop lesson for you. And so the process I go through is basically I create 2 sessions. One that's the live participation session where students who are present live can interact with. And then the other one is for students who are watching the recording. So I always want to make sure that, all students have an opportunity to interact. The difference is in the live participation session, I move the slides and all the slides move together, and it's awesome for live classes. But you can't do that when the students aren't present and they're watching a recording. So I just tell students who are watching a recording, you'll have to press the button as I go along. I always log in as a student to share my screen in case a student can't get into Nearpod, or a variety of reasons. So if a student can't get in for whatever reason, I tell them, okay, send me a private message with your answers in the chat. So that way, if for some reason something happens, it's taken care of. Also, for students who are watching the recording, they'll know when to change slides and all that. And then I put the teacher view on my second monitor, which is right here. And so my second monitor is one of the most helpful tools that I use. So I'm going to now show you how to do all this. Okay. So here is intro to hip hop. So first I do a student paste. And so you can either give students the code, tell them to go to join.nearpod.com or nearpod.com/student and have this code. You can require submissions, which is helpful for, if students are completing it asynchronously. What I prefer to do is to just give a link because it eliminates this typing in. And so there are 2 slides that I use when I'm setting students up. So I have the ability in my virtual classroom, that the platform that my school uses, for me to put links on the board and they'll be active. If that's not the case for your school, then you might want to stick to codes. And so that is what I have here. And so I am always really specific about what students are going to do. So it's going to ask students for their name. You always want to tell them what to put in there. If it says name, they're not necessarily going to put their name in there. They see an opportunity and they will put their favorite TV character or whatever. So be specific, and I give that that example. And then I always tell students, while you wait, answer that question. So I'm going to grab this code and I will put it in. Whoops. There we go. And so that way it's down below and students know, okay, if I'm watching the recording, this is what I use. All right. And that, again, was student based. I haven't used this live participation plus Zoom option yet. I haven't explored it. Honestly, my brain's on overload. So I have a tried and true method, and that is kind of just what I am doing. So live participation, this is going to be the kind of lesson where when you log in, students, and you can move student slides along with you. So this code here, you can put it here, or, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to invite you to join me on this. Yes, it is participatory. So if you choose link, you can also put the link right in the chat. And so I will, you can do it either way. I have entered students in, both ways. The main thing to know is that make it really clear if you are going to put a recording code or whatever. And so then what I will do is I will also sign in under, even though Nearpod has a student view, I have found that you can either, it's really glitchy because I want to be able to see the teacher view over here and the student view for students over here, because you can't see the same things. So what I've found is that it's just easier for me to also join as a student for what I am going to just show students. And so then I will take this teacher view, and so I can see students' names here, and I will put it on my other screen here. So this is what students see. And so they will see what they, especially for those recording kids or for a kid who can't log in or whatever, that this is, where they should be at. Because I think it's important, to have some sort of visual, even though they're going to be following along on their screen, just in case. Okay, so then there is the timer, and I always set a timer. I put a timer in by going to Insert, Video, and then if you just type in, 2-minute timer, you will find a bunch of options that will count down silently until, or with music. And this is loading slowly because I'm doing a million things on my computer right now. Oh, there it is. So I always put a timer up and I say, if you're having trouble logging in, please let me know. We are going to go on when the timer runs out. So I will give you all, I'm going to skip forward a little bit, 22 more seconds to go ahead and get in. So, and the link is in the chat if you need it, or you can go to nearpod.com/student and enter POMDE. It doesn't matter to me. While you wait, go ahead and answer the first question. And so this will give you an idea of what it looks like on your student side too. And so right now I can see, so that one's a little aggressive, but there weren't too many options for 2 minutes. But that at least, puts a cap on it and kind of pushes students for whatever reason. Some of my students will not just get in there until there are 10 seconds left. Every time, and that's fine, but this timer kind of gives you an indication of how much wait time you should give. Usually 1 minute to 2 is enough. Oh, I'm sorry y'all for freaking you out. I'm sorry. So yeah, I chose that first one, but you can find a more calm one for sure. Okay, so great. And then usually, so this session is being recorded, and since you're not students, this is, you know, we're not dealing with FERPA issues here. Oh, actually, you know what? I can hide student names. So this is what it looks like on my end. And so you can hide student names, but I can see, you know, how students are doing. And I like to do these kind of check-ins, these while you wait kind of, how are you doing today? Or, you know, I've done choose a GIF or a picture of how you're doing, but it also gives me an idea of where students are feeling as we start the class. And so if they're all, you know, really sleepy, then maybe I need to up my energy a little bit. If they're all, you know, really excited, then I can vibe off of that. If they're all really frustrated at technology, like they were during the check-in last week, I gave them a little time to vent about it before we moved on, so it wasn't the topic the whole time. And so the bottom right is show or hide student names. And then I can also see, you know, who is in here and who has clicked away from the screen. Now, this is not perfect 100% of the time. So right now it says, Darlene, I'm calling you out. No, just kidding. So it's not perfect 100% of the time, but what I do is I keep track of these red students. And if after, you know, a couple questions, they don't respond, I'll just send them a private message and be like, hey, I saw you missed the last couple of questions. Is everything okay? Just kind of checking in and also encouraging them to participate. No, you don't need to make a fake student account. In fact, students don't need accounts to use this. That is why I love this, because it requires no login information. So it is amazing. All right, so now we are going to go on. And so when I move my slide, it moves on the teacher slide. So I'm going to show you kind of the behind the scenes of what I'm doing. So this is just a slide that I had. And so this is, we talk about how toasting originated in Jamaica in the 1950s. And so this 1 to 2 slides engagement. So here is something called Draw It. And so on my end, I can see all of the students' answers when it starts. I put a timer because that helps with pacing. And so you'll see in a moment, it will pop up on your screen, but this is just, you know, kind of a quick intro activity to see, you know, can you find Jamaica on the map? A little bit of geography thrown in there. And so when I press start activity, then, you know, students can see it on their end. This is what it looks like. You can tell them if you want to hide this, just click on the up arrow. But the draw tool is automatically selected, so students don't even need to figure out how to draw. It is already selected, which is great. The less clicks, the better. As students begin, I can see who is working in progress, who has already submitted, who is not submitted. And so it really gives me a great idea. Again, this timer is helpful because it will help with your pacing, and students know, you know, I need to do it in this amount of time. Now, just so, and so, okay, it's going. It's gonna time out. It will stop on your end, but just so you're aware, yes, so I am using Teacher View to advance the slides. I'll show you how that works in that next one. Okay, and so then you can also share out students. So if you press share, it doesn't show the student name, but you know, it shows, you know, what they said. So you can share out, you know, and then you can have students discuss if you want. And so now I'm going to show you what this looks like on the creation side. So I know that there's a lot of sides to this, but I want to show you kind of a little bit of everything. So let me show you what this looks like behind the scenes. So in Nearpod, if I go into edit, and it will take a little while to load because, all right, so this is Draw It. And so to add slides, you can just upload a PowerPoint right into Nearpod, and it will put it in slides automatically. And then to add activities, you just click, and then you can either add content or activity. And so this is the draw it activity. So if I double click on this, I just uploaded a picture of North America and South America. And then you have the option here to add a timer. So I usually, depending on the activity, usually do 1 to 2 minutes. I don't want students to have to take more than like 3 to 5 minutes to complete something. Otherwise, I'm going to start losing kids. So that is how you get there. And then you can also, add more instructions, whether it's video or media or audio. I try to keep it though kind of as simple as possible. All right, so then to advance the slide on my end, I just click this, then it changes on the student side too. All right, so let's keep going. And so this is just an example of posting. So I try to give students authentic examples of the music that we listen to. And so this is just, I put in a safe share video. And so in Zoom, you can actually just straight up share, this video. In another platform that I use, I have to encourage students to click here to open web page because there isn't a way for me to share my computer sound. So if you cannot share computer sound in whatever virtual platform you have, what I do is I say, okay, click here to open web page. I'll also put the link in the chat if you need it. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so we talk about DJ Cool Herc. And then we talk about his back to school jam. And then we have a video of DJ Cool Herc's music and also him talking about the merry-go-round technique. And so I like to keep my videos ideally under 2 minutes, but if it's like something like an interview like this, under 5 minutes. And so I use Safe Share a lot because I can trim videos and if I need to break things up a little bit, that's fine, but I don't want to be having students watch for more than 5 minutes, otherwise they're going to just stop paying attention. So this is an interview. I will give you this slide, these slides and this lesson if you would like to use it. This is actually a really cool interview snip, but hearing from DJ Cool Herc himself talking about his techniques and stuff. And so I try really hard to make sure students are getting authentic examples, especially of music that's, maybe not something that I'm as familiar with. All right, and now we have a check-in. So after every video. So here is an example of a poll. Why is DJ Cool Herc considered to be the father of hip hop? And so we can make, more complex questions. They don't just have to be like, what is? And so I try to make these, some of these higher level thinking. So when you press start activity, again, I use this built-in timer. And so students have the option to choose A, B, or C. I can also see on my end what they're choosing. And so great. And so this is a great assessment tool as well. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and share out answers. So I'll say, okay, we're going to share out answers. And so on the student side, you can see this, and then we can go back and talk about it. So the correct answer is actually DJ Cool Herc was the first person to extend the break of the music. And so in this instance, I would go back and review if needed, but it's a great kind of little check-in. It also keeps students engaged. And so on the back end, so to add Safe Share videos, what I do is add slide, add content, and then web content. So yes, you can add videos, but these are the entire videos, and they're straight off of YouTube. I like to do Safe Share because I can trim the videos and I can guarantee there's not going to be any ads or anything like that. The poll. So you can add up to 15 answers, I think. And so this isn't, the poll doesn't tell students whether they're right or wrong. It's just kind of, here it is. I added the timer here. Always add a timer to keep your pacing. And then this is what I turned on earlier to allow you to choose multiple options. So if you want students to be able to choose multiple options, that's all you do. All right. I know I'm going kind of fast. This is being recorded, so if you need to go back to it, that will be there. All right, so then we talk a little bit about turntables and scratching. And so yes, it's really great for students to be able to see that, but it is even better for students to be able to do it. And so what I use is the Google Doodle from the 40th anniversary of hip hop. And so it actually allows students to become like a DJ. And so it walks them through the process and it has all accurate vocabulary and whatever. And so I say, okay, it's your turn to try. What I want you to do in the time that I give you is I want you to at least change the record and use the scratching technique. And so I say it will make more sense when you have this. And so I move on to the next one. And on their end, it will ask them to say, click here to open web page. I tell them to click on the blue screen. And then I will also put the link in the chat if they need it, if they can't get through to that. And so if you haven't used Google Doodles, they are fantastic. I think there are like 6 or 7 of them that have some sort of music interaction, but they're great ways for students to be able to kind of create music or interact with something. And it doesn't have to be this like giant project. So again, definitely check this out. I'm going to keep going for time's sake, but that is there. And that is just same thing, adding the web content. So I just added the URL of the Google Doodle. Can you upload Google Jamboard into it? I don't know, but it's worth trying. I have never used Jamboard, so I don't know. But if it is slides related, probably. All right. Then we talk a little bit about the primary sounds of hip hop, which are percussion and bass. And so next up, we take a listen to it. So again, doing a lot of listening along the way. And, okay, so this is an example of a collaborative board. And so this, on the student's end, they will be able to submit their answers and then also see their peers' answers. And so the great thing about this is if you are struggling with maybe an extra chatty class, or if you have a ton of students at one time and it's just really hard to monitor chat, you can turn chat off, but then have a lot of these collaborative boards where students can kind of still interact and see each other's responses and respond. And so you can either choose to monitor or not. And so I'm going to press monitor here. And so the instructions are to find a picture or a GIF that of one of the primary sounds of hip hop. And so I show students, okay, you're going to click on the blue box down here, and then they can find their image. And so when students start to submit, and if someone would like to submit one, so I can show you what it looks like, it will come up here. Thank you. All right, and so then you can either approve it or not. What I like to do, very funny, very funny. What I like to do is I will give students, I will say, okay, you are going to have a minute. I'm not going to release the post right away. So everybody has a minute to go ahead and put in their answer. So that way students who, maybe, so it's not just like the first or second student that gets it and then everyone just presses heart because they agree. It gives time for students to go ahead and answer. And then after the minute is up, I will say, okay, I'm going to start publishing out results. And so when I start publishing, on the student end, they see this without names. On my end, so I can see, who has put in the different answers. And so that way, it is a great kind of check-in too. This will save. So if you wanted to use this as an assessment, you could come back to it later. If you wanted to, it's in the Nearpod reports, which is awesome. So the behind the scenes of this one, is collaborate. So this is collaborate. And so when you create a collaborate board, the characters are really limited in this one, so I try to put the question or exactly what they're going to do in here. I don't really find any of these particularly easy to see. I guess I usually use this one, but all of these are not either. Like, I find this font kind of hard to read. I find these kind of hard to read, so I don't know. So usually I stick with this one because it's kind of the biggest contrast. I don't know why I chose this one for this example, but nevertheless, here we are. Okay, so that's an example of collaborate. All right, then we talk a little bit about how technology advanced and how that affected, you know, what DJs were doing. And so then we have samplers and drum machines. And so then students have an opportunity to take a look and a listen to an example. And so I preface this with, we are about to watch a video that will have some of this newer technology that we are talking about in this evolution. I want you to see if you can figure out what it is. So giving them something specific to do. And so let's go ahead and we can actually watch this one real quick. And so this is DJ Cuppy. So I'm really also conscious about, you know, who I include. It gets better, ordered another round. 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 It gets better, or 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 it gets better, ordered another round. It gets better, ordered another round. It gets better, ordered another round. It's about to go down. Okay, and so that's a short 45-second clip that I show students. And so I'm not showing them the whole video, even though the whole video is pretty cool. And I tried to seek out a female DJ specifically since it is very much male dominated. And I had one student from our last year, she was like, oh my gosh, a female DJ? And so it is very important for students to be able to see themselves in music. So that is kind of how I do that through this class. All right, so in the previous video, DJ Cuppy used a computer program that records and plays back audio. What was she using to do that? So again, directly related to the video. We're not just watching videos for the sake of watching them. This is, again, another poll question. So students can't put this up, and it is a great way for me to also check in. Okay, since we already have gone through this, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay, and now, so in my high school music appreciation class where I teach this, we have already talked about jazz. And so I try to kind of connect the units that we talk about. So thinking about the jazz rhythm section, what elements of the jazz rhythm section are similar to what we've looked at as the elements of hip hop sound in this lesson? And so this is an example of an open-ended question. And so an open-ended question, this allows students to type out their answer, but it only goes to me. So instead of like the Collaborate board where it goes to everyone, their answer is only coming to me. So then students will put their answers in, and so I'll go back to hiding student names, but their answers will appear here as they come through. And usually, like I said, I keep this over on my second monitor, so I'm kind of looking as answers come in, but the thing that gets or continues to be displayed is this student view. And so I always remind them, okay, don't forget to press the submit button before time runs out. I am pretending to be a student who does not know the answer. Awesome. All right. So then you can also share out these individual students' answers. Now this is me editing my answer. Yes. So whoever you are, thank you for demonstrating that. So students can also edit their answers. And so then I shared out an answer and everyone sees it and we can discuss it or not. And then say, okay, whoever said bass and drums, great. Jazz also has bass and drums. And so we can see it here. And so to get the open-ended, scroll down. So where is it? Here it is. Okay, so this is just labeled as open-ended question. It looks very similar to poll, except there are no answer spots. Always turning on this timer. Now, what I like about this, and so this was not a feature when I first made this lesson last year, but they've added this kind of more recently, is that you can enable audio recordings. So for students who can't type super fast, I always turn these on. So I haven't taught this lesson this year, but I've been enabling them when I've been using these. And so I have 2 to 3 students who prefer to just record their answer rather than type it out. And so that is also, just another way that students can participate. So you have to turn it on, you have to toggle it on, but it is very helpful to have that. All right, and then finally, we talk a little bit about what hip hop, rap, how they fit together. And this kind of leads into tomorrow, or my next lesson, which is talking about the 5 elements of hip hop. It's a little bit of a teaser. And then the best part is a game. So my students, they love game. My high schoolers, they love Kahoot. No matter how many times we play Kahoot in all their different classes, they still love it. So this is called Time to Climb. And so you can, this is basically just built right in. So this is why I love Nearpod, because students do not need to go in a million places. I will say that depending on how many students you have at one time, this can be a little bit laggy. So if you have a larger class, you may not be able to do this as well. So is this lesson available in Nearpod library? No, this is my lesson that I have created, but I will gift it to you tomorrow when I share out the resources for this. If you are using Zoom and sharing with Student View and also playing the videos, those students who are in your class are playing the videos on their end. So are they hearing your computer? So the way that I do it is that I have students, I say, I don't share out my audio. I say, you listen to it on your end. So that way, students are just hearing it and with better sound quality most of the time. I don't always teach in Zoom especially for general music. So the way that my other virtual classroom is set up, yes, we use 2 platforms, there isn't a way for me to share computer sound. So I would say it kind of depends. And if you would prefer all students to just kind of watch your screen, you could always, just say, okay, everyone come back into Zoom for a moment. We're going to watch this video. And you don't even need to put it in Nearpod necessarily. I would say it's totally up to you. Experiment, see what works best with your students. All right, so Time to Climb, we're gonna do this. We won't go through the whole thing, but you can choose the different themes. Let's go with space. And here's what I tell students. I say, if you wanna pick a cute character, you can pick a cute character. If you don't care what character you are, just pick the first one and press start. So I tell my high school students, I'm like, I know it's a little bit cheesy to have a character. If you feel that way, that's fine. Just pick the first one. It's all about fun and learning. Yes, and like I said, I have not, so maybe Live with Zoom solves that problem. I am not sure. Like I said, I kind of just have, one track mind on one tech tool. And if it's working for me, I try not to, investigate too much until I have some more mental space, because there are constantly so many updates and things coming through the pipeline that I just don't have the space to necessarily keep it all in my brain. So since this is working, and since it works for my purposes, I'm probably not going to look into it. But I will say, if you think that is something that you're interested in, definitely go for it. But know that you do not have to do, if you follow me on Instagram, last night I posted, I was like, you do not have to do the fancy things. So you don't have to do a million things. You can, but if you are feeling burnt out right now, or you're feeling overwhelmed, I would say, good is good enough, and if you find something that works well enough, just stick with it. So, all right, and so I will put a timer on this. And I will say, okay, I'm going to give you a minute to get in, to give students time to get in. And then once we press start, I will, oh, and you have to press start if you're using that student view. So which type of music is considered to be an ancestor to hip hop, and students choose on their end. And so it automatically counts down on the student's end. So even if your students are at different lag times, that's kind of nice with Kahoot. Like if a kid is lagging 3 seconds behind, they don't get those 3 seconds. However, on Nearpod, it adjusts to every single kid's lag time. So it can be helpful for that. And so the correct answer will show up in green, and then, you know, the little characters over there move up, which I think is kind of fun. Where did toasting originate? And so then the only thing is, like, you can't control when you go on to the next question. It goes on automatically, so there isn't a whole lot of time to talk about it. So you can see over here too, you can see how your students are doing while they're playing, which is nice as well. Because if you see that lots of students are, you know, not getting very high scores, you may think to yourself, okay, I need to review this. Oh, is there? Oh, yes, there is a way to disable the music. Sorry, I always forget it's so loud because I disabled it a long time ago and I tell my students how to disable it. So if you're in Chrome, and that's the browser that my students use at our school, if you right click on the tab and then you click on mute site, I know the music is so loud, there isn't a way to like disable it. So I show students like how to disable the sound for that reason. All right, cool. So this is going to keep going. I don't think I can end it. So we only have 2 more questions left. I will answer any other questions while we're waiting for this. You don't have the Zoom Nearpod option and you have a school subscription. Maybe it's only rolling out to certain people. I mean, I've had a Nearpod for a while, so I don't know. I don't know if that counts for anything. But all right, yes, and all these little characters here, and my students get super hype about trying to be that climber even at 8:15 in the morning. This is also sometimes what I use as my exit ticket. So it's like a fun exit ticket, and a way to kind of, you know, gauge for tomorrow. Or sometimes I will use time to climb just to review, like before a test or anything like that. Okay, come on, time to climb. So, oh, I'll show you behind the scenes while we're waiting for that to finish up. So all it is time to climb right here. When you open it, you'll be able to put in all of your answers or questions and answers. You can also add images instead of text if you have younger students. So for elementary students, if you would prefer for them to choose from images and you read out the question, that's a possibility. You can adjust how long students have to answer each question. There's a whole lot that you can do through this. You cannot have multiple question or multiple right answers. So it's only one right answer, unlike, you know, how they can choose multiple in a poll. But usually I just do, you know, 5 to 10 questions depending on how much content we cover. And then I press save. There's also an option to add like a quiz, which is essentially time to climb, but like not fun. So I tend to just stick to time to climb because more students are likely to complete it that way. Okay, cool. So then I always, you know, give a shout out. And so the winner of today's Nearpod is, and I need to unhide the names. All right, congratulations, Krista, David, and Corey. And so I always say, and if you did not win the glory of today's Nearpod, then you at least won the knowledge of what you need to know for today's lesson. You won the knowledge. All right, so that is Nearpod in kind of a nutshell. I'm going to show you one more thing before we come back to Zoom. So you can end the session. And so it ends it for everyone. And then on the student screen, it should say that your teacher ended this. In Nearpod, if you go into reports, all of your students' answers will come up here. And so then you can look at them afterward. And so it gives you like a really great overview of, things like just generally how many pools they participated in, how many open-ended questions, how many draw-its, overall participation. So if you wanted to give like a quick grade, so sometimes what I do is I just take what is participation and I put it out of 10. And then I tell students, if you did not get the full participation points, you can go back and watch the recording and complete it with the code that is for students in the recording, so that they have the opportunity to get all those points if, they didn't quite get all of them. So that way it's not, you either did it or you didn't, and you're punished for that. It's, I want you to learn this, so please go back and do it. And that is kind of how I frame it. And so then you can also look specifically at what everyone answered, and also it gives you a breakdown of everything. So if you need assessment data, this is a really easy way. If your admin is always asking for like, okay, are you assessing kids? How are you assessing kids? Like, this is something you can do right in class. You have data that it looks very pretty, and each session will generate a separate report. So you don't have to dig through and say, okay, like all of these, if you have different classes, they're not all going to show up in one. Each code will have a different report. And so you can go through and everything. I can see everyone's draw-its. I can even see what kids put on their collaborative boards, which is great. So, and then you can also see the time to climb data. Okay, so that was Fast and the Furious Nearpod. And so even if, you aren't planning to use Nearpod, I'm gonna come back to this. Before I used Nearpod, I just did everything in my virtual classroom. And so I am going to show you how you can use just Zoom or translate it into whatever platform that you use. Okay, so this is my crash course in music terms. And so this is something that, because my students are coming at all different kinds of levels, I want to make sure that they are, having the minimum vocabulary needed to at least interact with, what we're going to do. And so I'll revisit it after, but this is just, basically a quick 20-minute lesson that I do. Okay, so let me answer some questions real quick. If someone does a Nearpod later, does it show up in the same class report? So it does show up in the like asynchronous report, technically. So it will show up in a different code, since it is a different code. So that is one downfall, but I will say that, I don't really have a lot of students that need to do the recording one, so it doesn't really affect my data, or it doesn't really skew it too much. Is it easy for you to go back later and find their grade? Yes. So because I didn't read part 2 of the question before I answered, because it is in a separate report, I can just go and check that, and I don't have to go back in to their first one. Cool. Do I always start class on Zoom and then transfer to Nearpod as a class? Yes. So we always start together. I always go over like learning objectives, make announcements, and then we go into Nearpod. So usually there's about a 5-minute course or introduction before we go into Nearpod, just to give a little bit of buffer room, because even though I tell my students like come in 5 minutes early to mitigate tech issues, there's always one kid where it's like, I tried to come in at like 8:05 and my computer restarted, and then my Wi-Fi stopped working, and I made a call to AT&T and it all worked, but it's now 8:21. And so to avoid some of those issues, I just, I always tell kids to go back and watch the recording, but if they miss the first 5 minutes, like, yes, we are doing important things, and it's not going to be the end of the world, essentially. All right, so here is my crash course in music terms using Zoom or whatever platform you use. Okay, so we start out with these basic definitions, because again, I always say piece of music, but if you're thinking like piece, like a piece of paper, a piece of pizza, so it's not really a familiar term, to students who are not used to hearing that over and over. So we go back to the very, very basics. and I show them, okay, so this is a score. You don't need to read music to understand that this, is a piece of, or this person is writing out music. And so we go through that. And so again, I am already doing a check-in, right? We didn't get too far before I'm already going to engage students. And so this is something that I'm going to do through polling in Zoom. And so you won't be able to see exactly everything on my end, but I am recording it so that way when you watch the recording, you should be able to. So I said, which of the following is most likely a career from the definitions that we just went over? And so I am going to open up polling in Zoom. And so I do not create separate polls for every question. I just have one poll that says choose your answer A, B, or C. And I also have one that says A, B, C, D. So I'm going to launch the poll and I will say, okay, I am going to give you, 30 seconds or a minute to go ahead and put your answer up. And so then I can see on my side, and so I'm gonna put this on my second monitor and watch the answers come in that way. But it shows me, how many people have and voted and whatever, or polled in. And so I can't see student names through the Zoom poll because students don't register, but it may be different for your school. It just kind of depends. I don't know every platform super well. Okay, so then I end poll, and then, students, I can share out the results and we can talk about it. Okay, great. I see that most students got it correct. I'm going to move on. And so then we will close that out. All right, then we're going to talk about the staff. And so here's what the staff is. Here's what pitch is. Hooray, pitch. High or low? Okay, one of my favorite check-in questions. Find 3 memes and then one of them needs to be related to whatever you're talking about. So which of the following memes is most related to pitch? Okay, and so all I'm going to do is relaunch that same poll, ABC. I'm not creating a million polls. That takes way too much time to do. Okay, so same thing. Go ahead and put your answer up. So it is, again, helpful to just have this A, B, or C. It takes so much time to program in polls for every single class. So make your life easier. Don't do the fancy thing. They can very easily read your slide and then just choose. All right, so then ending the poll. All right, great. Yes, the Freddie Mercury meme, hooray. All right, here we go. Next one. All right, so here is a different engagement technique. So I don't want you to really read too much. I just want you to kind of glance at this and tell me which of the following do you think would be easier to read. So glance at it. I'm going to change slides. Think about it. If you think it's 1 or 2, kind of hold it on your finger. 1 or 2. Okay, I'm switching slides. So I don't want students to really read it because you'll see in a moment why. Okay, so I want you to tell me which was easier for you to read. Hold up your answer on your hand if you have your camera on, or you can put your number in the chat if you have your camera off. All right, great. And you can go ahead and put your hands down. So again, giving students multiple options. They don't have their camera on. Again, it is not the end of the world. And so you can see, look at all those people who are responding in the chat who are here, right? So just because a camera is off does not mean that they are disengaged either. All right. So that is how I introduce bars and measures. So we basically have these bar lines, just like we have separate paragraphs. So it helps musicians be able to read music. So it's not just one big blob, just like paragraphs help you. Hooray, paragraphs, hooray, bar lines. All right, here is the next activity that we're going to do. And so preface this with, I just want you to tap your toe to the song. And so yes, I did have purple hair last year. I haven't switched out all of my Bitmojis, but no purple hair this year. Okay, and so then I will stop sharing and I will stop sharing, whoops. I will stop sharing my screen momentarily and I will share the video. And so I want you to see this actually. Hold on. So you will want to make sure that you're sharing your computer sound if you're going to share any videos. And I know we're almost at time. I'm almost done with this. Oh, it will probably be till 9:15. If you need to head out early, I totally get it if you're an East Coaster. But here is my cheat sheet document. So when I am teaching in something that is not Nearpod, I make a list of all the links that I will need to, send out to students, to display, whatever. Anything, if I'm doing a separate exit ticket, if, and usually I have this, so I just keep a running list. So tomorrow I would put 9, 10, and then blah, 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 and then 9, 11, and then everything. And so I will also put, the link to Nearpod if I need to, so I can easily copy and paste. What I also do, if I find that I am typing the same message to students, then I will also put it here. So for example, if I'm typing, hi, is everything okay? I saw you didn't answer the last poll. Please let me know you're still here. So that way you're not like, hey, so-and-so, you're not participating, you're not paying attention, I'm real annoyed right now. Because the thing is, you don't know if there's something exploding in their kitchen. You don't know if they're having some sort of tech issue. You don't know what's happening. You can't read students' minds. And even when they are on camera, you still don't know everything because you can't see everything. You can just see a square. So that's why I always start with, hey, is everything okay? And I send it in a private chat. All right, so now this is a Say Share video. And so I say, okay, we're gonna tap our toes along to this. And my students have a lot of strong feelings and thoughts about Billie Eilish. I said, we're not giving opinions, we're just listening. So I like this example because it's really easy to hear the beat. And again, this is a very short example. So we're not listening to the whole song. Very short clip. Okay. So after that, where did my slides go? Let me bring my slides back up. Okay, so after that, I will say, all right, we just experienced tempo. You tapped your toe to the steady beat, and that is tempo, how fast or slow. And then we can talk about dynamics too. And my students love a good meme. So, all right, I've gone 2 whole slides, but I haven't gone further than that without a check-in. So again, these don't have to take forever, but here's another poll. Again, just A, B, and C. Relaunching. And so then students can choose, okay, which of the following describes how high or low a note is. So just checking in to make sure there's understanding, but also for students to be engaging. Learning is not a spectator sport, right? That's what I tell my students. Learning is not a spectator sport. So your participation will help you, I promise. Okay, ending the poll, and then we can share, and then we can talk. Great job, we understand, hooray. I'm teaching music, teachers. Oh, and then this was, why? Oh, these are the fruit salad ones from the other day. Whoops. Okay, so these are the elementary slides. I apparently did not delete out my template. So I'm gonna do that right now. And anyway, things like that happen all the time in online teaching, and I just roll with it. And so if I was recording this, I would just leave that in and say, oh, I made a mistake, and then move on. Do not start over and record things again. I promise you it is fine. I record things in one take. I'm not going to edit this video that I am sending out to you all with all of my wonderful mistakes in it, because that is just how this goes. And yes, you can make your teaching highly edited, but it does not serve your students for them to see a polished, amazing product every single time. They want to see you making mistakes because they're going to make mistakes too. And if you can model safe mistake making, it's going to, just encourage your students to make mistakes and be okay. All right, so 2 more things. First, don't forget to, where can we watch the recording? It's going to be posted on my YouTube channel, and I will also be sending it out. I will send one big email out probably on Saturday with every single link, every single resource from all 5 days. So, but if you want to be able to see it sooner, these videos take a long time to process because they're pretty big, because they're over an hour long. but they will be up within about 24 hours. So don't forget to enter the music teaching online essentials giveaway if you haven't done so already. I am giving away a bunch of my favorite things. My second monitor, you can have a chance to win a second monitor, not my exact one. I don't even know if they make this one anymore. But all of my favorite things I'm giving away: my standing desk, my blue light glasses. So all of these things are available to you to win. And I put this link in my document because the last 2 days I did not have my document like I normally do, like I was teaching my students. But look, I can easily just put it in the chat. And so, oh, nope, that's the wrong link though. That's the link to my book. So this is why you should pause while you do something. You don't have to talk through it. I always tell my students, all right, I'm going to pause and copy this link correctly and then give it to you. But you will get 8 bonus entries today for attending by entering the code JOYFUL in all caps. And so that is JOYFUL in all caps. There is one entry section that says, if you attended PD, give me your secret code. So there's one for every day if you've watched the whole thing. And then again, if you liked this and you want more tips like this, my book is available now, Teaching Music Online, a comprehensive guide for K-12 music educators. And so there are tons more tips, tricks, templates, elementary, middle, high school, general music, performance ensembles, music theory, everything. It is available through F-Flat Books if you're interested. Okay. So I know that was a whirlwind. I know that was a whole lot. I wanted to give you, though, just a comprehensive view of what I do and how often I engage students and in what ways. And notice none of that required video. So you can do it without video, I promise. So, all right. Thank you all. If you have questions, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. If you have questions, I will definitely stick around for a couple minutes. Don't forget, there's also an open office hour on Friday, which is Ask Me Anything. And so if something strikes you at 3 a.m. this morning, tomorrow morning, you can come and ask that. You can come and ask really specific questions about your situation. It's up to you. But anyway, thank you all for attending. If you have questions, let me know. If not, have a lovely evening. Thanks for joining.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go for it.
Unless you want me to wait till Friday.
No, you can go for it now.
So with your, I noticed, so you must open your Zoom room ahead of time and display your screen with the, okay. So that must be assuming that you don't have classes like back to back.
Yes. And so oh man, I didn't even think about that for you all, because I have breaks in between my classes to give students time to transition, because, but I know some of your schedules are back to back. So I would say, I mean, just encourage your students to be waiting. And if at all possible, if you can shorten your class time, even by like 3 to 5 minutes, just to, have that prepped. What I do in the morning is I will pull up all of my presentations for the day and have everything kind of prepped and ready to go. So I'm not having to like pull things up through the day. And so, for example, if I was teaching, this lesson and then this lesson or whatever, I would have those all pulled up. So that way you can just log into Zoom, go ahead and, share your screen right away, put a timer on, and, that kind of thing. I would say if it's back to back, end class 2 or 3 minutes early or start class 2 or 3 minutes late. I always start 2 minutes late. But I think having a little bit of time for students to kind of, and also for you to, can be very helpful. So,
right. And then while it's playing, you were able to let people in at, you said probably at the start of class time. Okay.
Yeah. And so I just let kids in, and so the music is playing while they're coming in, and so they're not just sitting and staring at each other, which is going to, if that is what's happening, they're just going to wait until they know that you have started class and then hop in then, because they don't want to sit and stare at their classmates. But if you have something to do, that will encourage them to sign in, so they're not going to be just staring at each other, kind of thing.
Okay. And one last question. Are
Mm-hmm.
you familiar with Canvas?
Little bit.
Okay.
What's your question?
Oh, I'm not going to go there. It was about exit tickets and in Canvas and how to coordinate that. But you don't need to answer that. I think that's a long one.
Well, I have an idea.
Okay.
I'm not a super Canvas expert, but I have an idea for you. And so I set up so my high schoolers, since there's only, 25 to 35 of them at a time, it's kind of more manageable for me to be able to look in different places. Because I have 275 eighth graders, I don't have time to enter anything in individually. So it all needs to kind of be auto graded, except for, bigger projects. I will do actual grading on that. And so what I do is so for my flip lesson, I will actually release it on Monday and it'll be due on Friday. And so that way it kind of keeps students on track. And so they have a recording and then they have an exit ticket as a quiz. And so because I don't have everything on there at once, I don't know if there's like a conditional release, but basically, for example, this week's, students couldn't access it until Monday, even though we had off. I just keep it consistent. Monday at 8 a.m. And then they're not, since it was Unit 1, Week 2, they can't see Week 3 and Week 4 yet. They can't access it early. So it just kind of keeps them on track. And then I have it auto-graded and exported to my gradebook. Now, how I ensure that students actually watch the recording and they didn't just take the exit ticket is that I do something called the class word. And so I say a secret word at a random point in the recording, and that's worth 4 points. So technically it's 4 out of 10. So technically they could still pass if they don't get the class word. But those 4 points, can also give them that boost. And so that's kind of how I ensure students are actually watching it. Did that help at all?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And I would say, the more auto grading, the better. And just make your life as easy as possible. So if you can build in exit tickets right into your LMS and it can auto grade, go for it. When I do exit tickets, or even with Nearpod for eighth graders, I don't grade them. For high schoolers, I will, depending on what it is. So you don't need to do everything though, and if you can assess and not grade. So that's my whole thing. That's my soapbox a little bit. So.
Okay, great.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question. It's great. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? If not,
how can we thank you appropriately for all of this? I feel like we should be paying you. I mean, really, you have, I'm teaching online for the first time this year to kids. I already bought the book. I feel like there's got to be something more.
Oh, no. I mean, this was all in celebration of my book and part of it. So if you will review my book, if you haven't already, or, your word of mouth, have music teacher friends, that is plenty of payment enough. So my goal too here is to help people feel better. So it's, I know how much I felt like I was drowning that first semester, and there wasn't really any guide. So these are all things that I figured out over 4 years. All these mistakes I made for you. And so I really wanted to be able to help people out because I know how stressed out people are right now. And so I do very much appreciate that, but also, buying my book, spreading the word is plenty enough, because I just want to give our profession a hug right now, because it has been, a tough couple of months, and I am very grateful that I did have something to give during this time, in a time that I felt really helpless. So Awesome. Well, thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All right. Bye, all. Have a good rest of your evening. Take deep breaths.